Okay, so we're going to deal with the questions later on, but just let's go on, because I think most of the questions are going to be answered by what comes next, inshallah. All right, so in Aqidah, in the Salafi, not Salaf, the Salafis, the Wahhabis, Aqidah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is up in the skies. So they believe these the earth, skies is above the earth, and there is a kursi, a chair, which is a place of the foot, and there is a arsh, which is okay, that's creation. But then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sits on top of that, as I said, as a Dishti, that the Dishti guy who had that book, which one of their main books in that issue, and they say when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sat on the throne, it produced like a sound, because it was heavy, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala heavy. So basically, and the arsh is as if you put heavy objects on a new chair or something, it does that sound. I don't know what's called in English, like atit, we call it in Arabic atit. So there's a hadith there, and that's basically, that's correct, that's sunnah, that's salaf way. Hasha lillah. Now the problem with that is, if you see look at the earth, up is this way, right? Actually, no. Up could be here. For anybody who's in this side on earth, his up is this way. Up for those people here is this way. The direction of up here is this way, and so on. But not only that, everywhere, every point on earth is up. So there's no true up. There's no up. There's no direction called up. It's relative to who you are, what you are. And you can see that the earth itself, if had we been created in the shape of an earth with no head and and foot, we wouldn't have up and down. The fact that we have up and down, right and left, and in front and back, is because we have head, we have eyes looking this way, we have back. It's basically a function of how we have been created. And that's why when the scientific evidence became apparent, and people started saying that the earth is circular, the sphere, and so on. There was one of their, I don't know, call him scholars, or it's not scholar. We don't call those guys scholars. They are not to the standard of scholars, but maybe shuyukh. They respect them, and we respect people just for being people. We rebut what they say, but we respect those guys as anybody else, as we respect anyone else, and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive them and guide everyone to his straight path, inshallah. So anyway, he has a sawa'iq al-shadida ala ittiba' al-hayat al-jadida. Al-hayat al-jadida, the new form of earth. They denied first, or still until now, there are some of them who denies that earth is circular. They are basically flat earthers. Okay? Because for them, Allah is up, God is up. He has to be up. If the circle, how come? And then they say, anybody who says planet, kawkab, he used the word kawkab to refer to the earth is wrong, dalal, and being astray. Because those who call the kawkab or the earth kawkab are those who say the earth rotates around the sun, and those are the fringe, the foreigners, the Westerns, and those who follow them is ignorant. Those of Muslims who follow them are the ignorance, and they are dallin, and so on and so forth. They are even said, whoever says that the earth moves is kafir. In this book. Now, the Aqidah al-Tahawiyya, that even they admit it encompasses Aqidat Ahl-Sunna wal Jama'ah. Says, Imam al-Tahawi says, وَتَعَالَى يعني subhanahu wa ta'ala, ta'ala tanazzah, glorified from, this basically inapplicable to Allah, عن الحدود والغايات والأركان والأعضاء والأدوات. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala glorified from boundaries or limits, corners, parts, tools. He is not confined in direction, spaces as his creations. So creations are confined in spaces and direction, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not. So this is clear, express, and it is not subject to interpretation statement of Aqidah al-Tahawiyya. Yet when they start do the commentary on it, they say no, he didn't mean that. He only meant to deny the created direction, but there is an uncreated direction, which is up, where Allah is. But Imam Tahawi didn't say that. You are imposing your own understanding on what Imam Tahawi said. And there are a lot of things that he said here. I don't think we have time to go through all of them, but anyway. Now let's talk about Ibn Taymiyyah. Now Ibn Taymiyyah affirms movement and locomotion to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Locomotion is intiqal, is basically moving from a point to point. Because moving by itself is general. You could move like that, but not transfer from a place to a place. But locomotion, which is transferring from a place to a place, is he affirmed that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He affirms no beginning of the universe. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always existed with creations, like the philosophers. And he claims this is the ulama al-Muslimin, Aymat al-Islam said, and the Salaf, which there is no text whatsoever say that, nothing whatsoever. Affirms physical direction to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's up. And in order to justify that, because he admits that the earth is circular, but in order to justify that, he says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so huge that if you put, is like a very huge person. If you are very huge and you put in your hand a chickpea, you will be up, right? That's what he says. So basically, it's like Allah. So Allah still, even if the earth is a sphere, it's in Allah's hand, but because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is so huge, big, massive, he is still above it. But if you say that, I mean, if I'm here now and holding a chickpea, my head is above it. Part of me is above it, but I'm still under. My hand has to be under it. So in order to say that I am above it would be interpretation, would be majaz. But you deny majaz. How come? He relies on Jewish traditions, copies pages and pages from Jewish theologians. You remember what we talked about, descended voice, all that kind of stuff in Torah and so on. Basically just copies a lot of the philosophers, and we're going to talk about that in detail later on. He adopted something called spatial quantum of God, which is a Jewish theologian idea. And basically it says God has a quantum, but not like human. Does that remind you of something? Quantum, not like us. Hand, not like us. Shem, not like us. Leg, not like us. Face, not like us, and so on. It's basically based on that invented concept of spatial quantum of God, which is basically Jews philosophers invented. And saying all that while falsely claim that it's basically the position of Salaf and position of Imam Muslim, all Imams of Muslims and so on. Okay, without providing proof. And even if providing some proofs, it's either a hadith mawdu'a or weak or very weak or whatever, goes against the Quran and so on. Now, we have also to give him credit. He possessed a great deal of knowledge and was Hafiz of Sunnah. So he was a scholar. We have to admit that. He was a scholar of Muslims. And he has a lot of good things. We cannot deny that. But a lot of scholars said that he had, like, he was a seeker of his own glory. He wanted to be the boss of scholars, right? And that blinded him a little bit. And that was a cause of why he went astray in Aqidah and in Fiqh. He broke the scholars' ijma'. There was unanimously, all scholars of Muslims agreed on over 60 cases or like 60 matter before him. And when he came, he basically broke that and said, no, there's no ijma' here, and this is wrong, this is correct, and so on. Some of them, what we talked about just in the previous slide, but some also traveling to visit the Prophet is haram. So basically to travel to visit the Prophet is haram, is forbidden, is as you are traveling to to do zina or to drink liquor, basically haram. That's a haram trouble. Okay, and Imam Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani said this was one of the most absha. This was the most awful things that Ibn Taymiyyah said. He innovated something called tripartite, a division of Tawheed. So he basically divided the Tawheed to three parts: Tawheed Uluhiyya, Tawheed Rububiyyah, Tawheed Sifat. And that's an invention. Nobody said that before, and he invented that. And the division itself, or the dividing it itself just as a concept, is no problem. The problem is he divided the he separated those division as if you can do this without doing that. There is no talazum, there is no necessity to do this, to do that, right? Anyway, we can talk about that also later, but basically this was the foundation of accusing Muslims of shirk. This is what Ibn Abdul Wahhab used after that, later on, to declare Muslims as mushrikeen at his time and kill them and so on. Also, seeking Prophet's intercession after his passing away is shirk, which those who attended the previous lesson of hadith, Imam al-Nawawi hadith, I think we talked about that, and we demonstrated that is not correct. Now, some reports, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani reported in one of his books that there are some reports that he repented, he abandoned Tajusim and went back to Ash'ari theology. We don't know, God knows best. He also has some great political positions that he should be commended for. We cannot deny that to him. So he is a scholar of Muslims. He had bad and good. He deviated in certain areas. His deviations has been rebutted at his time. But those who unearthed that turath, that tradition, knowing it is wrong and basically just using it to do takfir to Muslimin and so on and so forth, those are basically to blame for what we are seeing now. So anyway, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive him and all our scholars and all the ummah.